There's a thin wall between our world and that of the Fae. The passions and emotions stirred by violence and combat bleed over, and the supernatural often awakes from long slumber to meddle in mortal affairs. There have always been those among us willing to meet the... There is a thin wall between our world and that of the Fae. The passions and emotions stirred by violence and combat bleed over, and the supernatural often awakes from long slumber to meddle in mortal affairs. There have always been those among us willing to meet the supernatural threat. They are the men and women of Joint Task Force 13. They hold the line between heaven and hell. JTF 13 from Three Ravens Publishing. Available on Amazon.
War, the only constant in the ever-changing landscape of Ram. For millennia, the dwarves of the Southlands have battled against their ancient foes, the Sallow-skins, who occupy the nation of Garthon Tor to the north. When a massive horde invades, the irascible bard Omens prepares to flee the Golden Keep, content to let others do the fighting. Through a cruel twist of fate, he is forced to accompany Princess Medin in a diplomatic mission to summon aid. Can they get help in time and save the Golden Keep? From the world of the Raven and the Crow, discover the adventure that awaits in The Dwarves of Ram, Omens of War. Written by Michael K. Falciani, narrated by Harry Frost. Available from Three Ravens Publishing on Amazon.
Ever have that kind of day where everything gets weird? Step out in the morning with your coffee to see all your garden statuaries have come to life and are fighting each other? Head out from work and your car gets fatally pecked by a giant chicken. Eat at your favorite restaurant only to have your childhood crush slaughtered before you get dessert? No? Huh. That's what happens when you deal with the Staff of Chaos. Book 3 in the Lady of Death series by J.F. Posthumous.
Do you love sparkly vampires? Well, too bad, because you won't find a single one of those fancy bloodsuckers in this collection. It came from the Trailer Park, a fun collection of horror and old-school creature feature with a hefty helping of B-rate tropes thrown in for good measure. From aliens to demons to werewolves and so many more. You're sure to fall in love with these tales of the macabre. So come on in, take a load off, and get yourself ready for 19 unforgettable tales straight from the Trailer Park. It came from the Trailer Park, from Three Ravens Publishing, narrated by Talon Beeson. Available on Amazon.
Hey there, stranger. You looking for a good time? That's not what you were expecting. Well, it's too late to back out now. Here comes TDB Pirate Radio.
Welcome back for another long overdue episode of TDB Pirate Radio. I'm your host, William Joseph Roberts, aka Hillbilly. Tonight we are talking about comedy and the difficulties of writing good comedy. And with us we have David Batterina, author of
Cheers,
Space
sir.
Oh yeah, well, I gotta throw Space Pew Pew into that.
Oh, hell yeah.
Terry K. Job, who is one of our narrators, and her comedic timing is spot on with all of these audiobooks she's been working for us.
Oh, yes, of course. Ah.
And then we've got Southern comedian Billy Hubbard, who is in the dark right now. Billy, did you pass out? He's at the bar. I don't know what happened to Billy. Okay.
Hello,
so,
darkness, my old friend.
That's right.
Oh, good. See, exactly. Comedic timing. Okay. So
I can't hear anything you guys are saying.
Oh, there he is. Well, is your lights dead in the truck or what?
Technical issues.
I can't hear you.
There he is.
Oh,
Okay.
I can't hear you.
Oh, really?
Ooh. Uh-oh.
I don't know.
we're going to have to do this whole thing in interpretive dance now.
Possibly.
First word sounds like.
Okay, let's see.
Maybe now?
Let's
Hello?
see.
Still no.
Hold on, let me send him a text. Gotta love technical errors. Okay, so, David, give us
Hi.
a little background on yourself.
What's that?
Give us a little background on yourself.
Well, my name's David, and I like to write stuff. So we'll start there. No, I mean, I've been a speculative fiction author. My first book came out 2020, and that was The Caretaker, which was urban fantasy. Still just kind of dark and weird and all that stuff, but I'm always working in the dark humor. I think that's sort of like my natural language. It's a Gen X thing. Like everything is just like stupid and lame, so you might as well run with it, right? And where I'm working, well, then it came from the trailer park happened, and then I realized that I have a love of this redneck humor horror genre. Because that was an absolute blast to play in, and looking forward to doing one for next year as well. And now I'm working on Space Pew Pew, which is just
Okay, I can hear you. I'm sorry.
aha,
Cool. There we go.
which is just humor in space. So,
Okay.
and all the things that are going to come with that. So I tend to write very humorously. It's something that I'm always getting feedback on. So happy to be here and happy to chat about it.
Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry K. Job. I got started with Three Ravens with narration, as Hillbilly mentioned. I'm trying to work my way through the back door with writing. And I can only take credit for the humor that the authors give me.
Yeah, but the comedic timing that you worked into the stories, it works so fucking well. I mean, the ad alone that I played just a few minutes ago for the third book, The Lady of Death, you know, that in itself was just a great little script setup, and you pulled it off flawlessly.
I'll be honest, I'd forgotten all about that, so that popped up and like, oh, that's me. What?
All right. So our special guest tonight is Billy Hubbard, up and coming Southern comedian. So give us a little rundown about yourself, Billy.
Well, I like how everybody's like all set up fancy. I'm in my truck with the trim missing out the top.
Well, it's fitting, isn't it?
Character. He's a character.
Yeah, I'm a Billy Hubbard. I'm a comedian based out of southeastern Kentucky. I got started in comedy near the end of my military career. I got out of the Army in 2020, but I've been doing stand-up since 2014, but I started doing it professionally about 2 years ago. I started posting content on TikTok and YouTube and all these places. It kind of blew up for me. Now I have a huge following of over 1 million. I've been on shows like MTV's Ridiculousness. They've put me on Grandma's House and all these places. So I've had a pretty good run for the last 2 years. Don't know how long it's going to stay that way, but
You just got to keep trucking, man. I mean,
yeah.
from everything that I've watched on TikTok, your skits and stuff, I mean, it's following in the lines of, maybe not quite as wholesome as Jeff Foxworthy, but you're still touching on the Southern redneck tropes, pulling in a little bit of Ron White and Larry the Cable Guy type stuff. But it's funny shit that we all can relate to.
Well, yeah, because it did surprise me, though. I do a lot of Appalachian, like, poverty, because that's how I grew up. I make a lot of skits based on that, and it surprised me how many people related to that type of childhood and humor. So that was definitely a shocker to me. I didn't realize that would be such a relatable topic, but, surprise, it worked out for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, shit, the one that I shared today, in that little sequence of having to rebuild the engine on the truck, and the girlfriend was like, yeah, and it's leaking water out the tailpipe, and you're just like, oh my God, like, I know exactly what the hell that is. Head gaskets, not tanks. Oh my God, you got to tear the thing back apart. So, it's so relatable, though, to those of us that we get by and do everything that we can to make the next buck and keep things running,
I like to say that I make bad luck humorous. That's what I tell everybody.
Okay, so inspiration-wise, we'll go around the panel and start with Billy. What's your biggest inspiration besides, just, you're growing up and you're raising and all that? Who's your inspiration?
I have a lot of inspirations that come from my childhood. When I was young, we didn't have TV a lot because, we'd have it for a month and then they'd come shut the shit off because we didn't pay it. But stand-up comedy is something I've always thoroughly enjoyed. I grew up watching people like Dave Chappelle and Cat Williams and Jeff Foxworthy and all those guys. And I always told myself, like, I really like how they tell stories. I love that. And it was a good distraction for me, But the biggest inspiration I would say I have comedy-wise is George Carlin. George Carlin is my hero.
I can't argue with that one. I mean, George Carlin was the man. He hit the nail on the head so many times.
So that I would say that's my biggest inspiration in comedy is George Carlin.
Okay. All right, Terry, what about you?
I'd have to say that growing up, I wasn't listening to like George Carlin or Jeff Foxworthy till later, but my dad would always watch those like British comedies that came on in the early evening, Keeping Up Appearances, Are You Being Served? And on occasion, if I was lucky, some Monty Python. So as far as timing goes, having that pause to wait for the, oh wait, that was a joke. That's where I kind of got that from, just thinking back to those types of shows. And then once I got to college, I got introduced to Jeff Foxworthy, George Carlin, Bill Engvall, those kinds of comedians. And it was awesome. So a combination of all that.
David.
So for me, I have a real vivid memory as a kid. I was probably somewhere around 10 years old. So peg this around 1985. There was this comedy special, Rodney Dangerfield's comedy special. And we ended up pulling it off on a VHS tape, right? And it was just the beginning of Sam Kinison. I'm trying to think of some of the other people that were on there. Kinison was always a favorite of mine. I remember just like watching this over and over. There was a guy, man, he did this football routine with like with balloons in his shoulder pads, and he was like introducing himself as each member of the team, and it was just like hysterical. That, and then I ended up the irreverent stuff like Monty Python. I loved the weird out of left field humor that you just didn't see coming. And I loved comics like that too. So Mitch Hedberg was always a favorite of mine. Just his one line, like, what if Bigfoot is blurry? Like, to me, that just like, it's not a lot of words. And it just like, I find it funny every time I hear that. So it's just like a number of different places. And more than anything else, just from whatever movie gets me laughing, or just, has me like, oh man, that's clever timing, or it's just somewhere out of left field and I didn't expect the punchline. Those are always my favorite. I love the feeling that gives me.
Okay. For me, absolutely Monty Python, Douglas Adams. I mean, I read every bit of Douglas Adams that I could get a hold of. Even the little comedy bits that were laced into like, Doctor Who that we catch on PBS, because Adams wrote a lot of Doctor Who episodes, so you got those little snippets of his comedy in there. But going back to George Carlin, Sam Kinison, loving the way that they did their deliveries, and I mean, Kinison was just straight up angry on so many things. But I've got so many influences. It's crazy. I mean, my first novel, Flux Runners, was something I had to get out of my system before I could write something serious, because it's so cheesy sci-fi conglomerate. I mean, it's like everything just jammed together with so many Easter eggs. But it turned out to where people enjoyed it. So, it worked. But the influences on that were things like, Spaceballs, Ice Pirates, Caveman,
100%.
of all things.
My God, Caveman.
I mean, 5 English words in the entire freaking movie. I can quote the entire movie start to finish. And it's one of those shop movies. I toss it in the VCR out there and just let it play.
Love it.
And, I'm doing whatever, piddling in the shop, and it's just playing in the background. And but that's the kind of comedy that I like, But I grew up watching a lot of Little Rascals and Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, that kind of stuff, all the slapstick and the cheesy tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff too. When it comes down to comedy, when you're just trying to relax, what's your go-to? We'll go back
Monty Python.
We'll go back to Billy.
There's a series on Netflix that got revived about 6 years ago, and it's called Trailer Park Boys. And I am in love with that show. And I know it's slapstick humor a lot of times, but the writing on that, man, like that for the longest time, if someone was to tell me that was a scripted show, I wouldn't believe them. I just wouldn't believe them.
I've seen some clips of it. I mean, it seems like it's something straight out of what would happen in a trailer park anyway.
And it's Canadian. That's just, it's one of the best mockumentaries I've ever
Is that the one with the Dicks, the Amish family, the Dicks, or is that a different show?
That might be a different show. This one's about the 3 guys. That's Ricky, Julian, and
Bubbles.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a different one. That
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. It's a lot of tongue in cheek and just dry humor, but as soon as you catch it, it's like, oh shit.
Well, see, Trailer Park Boys, they have a scene in it where they rented all his sheds out to prostitutes, and everybody got crabs, and Bubbles gets mad and tries to take the sheets to the laundromat to get them washed off, and like he's trying not to touch the clothes, and some kid just comes up and knocks the clothes up in his face, and he gets crabs all over his body, and he takes his clothes off, and then gets arrested for indecent exposure. Like who thought and just wrote that bit?
Right. All right, David.
So, oh man, I mean, for a go-to, I definitely have physical copies of Spaceballs. I've got Airplane on physical DVD. I will watch that any day, anytime, just because the jokes are just like, they're fast and furious, and they're all just really stupid, and I love it. Growing up, I watched a lot of Kids in the Hall, again, Canadian. I did a lot of stuff like Faulty Towers. I love the British humor, anyway. So all of the classic Monty Python skits, they actually had a computer game back in the day called Monty Python's Complete Waste of Time, which was indeed a complete waste of time, but I loved it. And so really just like anything like that. I don't necessarily have a specific go-to. I don't really do gross out humor. It's not really my thing. I like it to be a little irreverent and a little weird, and Canadians are weird. So I just kind of like SCTV stuff. Spaceballs is definitely way up there on the list. Spaceballs and Airplane. I could do that. I could do that as a marathon and be totally happy.
Okay. Well, no, I was wrong on the date. I was looking up, cause I remember the Monty Python game. And I was thinking it came out in 96 because that's when I first encountered it when I was stationed at Seymour Johnson. But no, it came out in 94.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there you go.
But you're dating yourself, man.
I am. I was 19.
I was born in 94, if that makes you feel any better.
Oh, dear God. You're a baby. What?
Yeah, that makes you
I'm
feel
not the
any better.
youngest.
That's good.
I feel old now.
I finished
Yeah, the wife finished college in '94.
Well, make sure she takes her blood pressure medicine before
That's
she
right.
Now, when it comes to just chilling out and watching something good, Ice Pirates, Caveman, when it was on Netflix, Red Dwarf, love it. I mean, I'm a Trekkie at heart. I love my sci-fi, but when you toss in that dry British comedy and the tongue-in-cheek stuff, I mean, it's like the best of Star Trek and Monty Python had a love child, and you have Red Dwarf. It's so stupid. It's
so stupid.
Yeah, there's series out there that I feel like are meant to be serious, but because of a certain character that they put in the show, there's so much humor in it that I think's over. Like I'm a big Game of Thrones fan, right? I love Game of Thrones, but if Tyrion Lannister wasn't a character, I probably wouldn't even watch the entire series.
Yeah, I would go with that for sure.
That's fair.
Yeah. It just goes to show that
I've not seen any of the series yet.
Well, it pretty much he's an alcoholic dwarf.
Right.
Okay.
That's pretty much the whole basis of it, and it just goes to show that if you're writing comedy, just having one good character was just that helps so much.
Yeah.
And the Mountain was also like kind of unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah.
In a lot of moments. I mean, really, he just had like little spots here and there where it was like, oh man, this guy. Yeah, I became a fan.
Well, now with your comedy, Billy, where do you see most of the draw going? I mean, for direction wise, I mean, are you going to be staying with the redneck side of things and the poverty stuff, or are you going to start tangenting off into other things? I mean, how do you see that career working?
Well, so when it comes to stand-up comedy, I'm focused a lot around personal experiences and relatable humor, but I do have other projects we worked on. Like we wrote a series called The Devil versus the Country Boy, which is pretty much the devil just trying to cash in on a soul of this guy that's just not going to go. We've done a lot of skits on TikTok and YouTube that's done pretty well, like when that whole Bud Light fiasco thing went down, or when the Titanic thing went down. I made a skit about like what would happen if that was a bunch of rednecks in there. But what I'd like to do was I do stand-up comedy a lot, but the direction I want to be in the next 2 or 3 years is I want to do showcases. And it's because I feel like there's a lot of independent artists and comedians that don't get heard the way they should. So I'd like to run shows like the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, but with smaller comedians that nobody's ever heard of, and then tour around the country and do that. That's what I'd like to do.
Okay, I don't know how to delete that. I'll play with that later.
I know, right? I saw that come
A
up.
freaking troll jumped in on one of the chats.
Oh, what did he say? Did he say I look like a lesbian? I hear that a lot.
No, actually, they're wanting to offer promotion for the channel. It's like, yeah, no, go away. Sorry.
Oh,
I hate trolls. God, I hate trolls. Except for basement trolls every now and then because they help out around the house.
yeah, I get told I look like a lesbian a lot. So
How the hell does that work? You got to
I don't know, man. Like,
You got the
like,
You know what?
man.
It's the beanie. It's the
yeah,
beanie.
so no, I don't even wear the. So what it is I got this.
Well, now,
hair,
wait,
right,
hold
this
on. You
mullet.
are in Eastern Kentucky, so some of the ladies out there. I grew up in Southern West Virginia, Belfry, Kentucky. All that. Wimpson, Gilbert, Logan. That's my stomping ground.
Yeah.
So,
There's, you got Kentucky women. You know how old they are by how long their facial hair is.
yeah. So maybe that you just looking fine for your age is what it is.
Well, no, what
Like
it
a
is,
fine
man.
line.
I grew this mullet out to be more masculine and this mustache, and now I just look like a lesbian with facial hair. Like I look like I could run the fuck out of a McDonald's. It's not fair, man.
How's your battery doing? I know you were running low earlier.
We're at 21%. I got about 10 more minutes with y'all.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Let's get a rundown of some of the stuff that you got coming up before it does die off on you. Some of the shows you got coming up and the other projects you got going. Was it the one over in Corbin was going to be for a veterans charity?
Yeah, so we're doing a show in Corbin, Kentucky at a venue called the Train Station on January 6th. And it's going to be it's one of the biggest comedy things I've ever done, because I think they're going to pack the place. Like, we're expecting to have like 1,000 to 1,200 people there, and I've got a bunch of talented comedians and musicians coming out there. Amanda Meadows from TikTok, she plays the character Charlene. We're going to have her come out there and do that, and do a little bit of stand up and talk to everybody. I have some phenomenal comedians from Nashville coming in. I've got some comedians from Washington that are flying in to do the show. And all
cool.
we're not doing any pre-sales or anything like that. It's $10 at the door, and all the proceeds from ticket sales go to a charity called Resilient Nights. It's a charity for veterans that help them if they need to, get stuff from the VA, or if they need help with anything at all. It goes
Excellent.
towards them. So that's what we're doing.
Well, that's all kind of good, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a complete piece of shit. I played one though on the internet.
Well, what about you got any other shows planned already, or?
Oh yeah, so I'll be in West Virginia on April 19th and 20th for the 420 Festival. They got me in Nashville, Tennessee in March. They have me on, let's see, I just got booked today for Danville and for Pikeville.
Okay.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, I'm in a bar parking lot, by the way, guys. So if y'all see a fight or anyway, I'll turn the camera toward them. And we can.
Hey, that's entertainment, man. It with writers, anything can become writing fodder.
Well, as much as I hate to get off here, guys, my battery just turned red and it's going to shut off here.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, real quick, where's the best way for folks to find you?
If you go to TikTok and type in Billy Hubbard Official, or YouTube Hardship and Felonies, any of that, you'll find me. And if you Google me, this is a fun fact. If you Google Billy Hubbard, my mugshot from 2016 will pop up.
Oh, see, now I got
and my TikTok handle. So there you go.
See, I got to look it up now.
Yeah, I'm being serious. Like, before, I'll let you. If you look up Billy Hubbard, it'll be a mugshot, and it's me. And I don't remember taking it because I was fucked up. I was wrong. I deserved to go to jail that night. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all.
Wait, hold on. Let's see. Share screen.
Oh damn, he's gonna put it on there. Right,
You expected anything different from Hillbilly?
Let's see. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
There it is.
Disorderly conduct.
Shoot, man.
Okay.
Look.
Cheers.
See that?
You don't tell me about something that I can go and find real quick and throw it up on here, because that's fodder, man.
See that? There's not a thought behind those eyes right there. I'm not even conscious during this mugshot, man. I told a cop to go fuck himself, and that he was I said pussy. I might have said that word. I don't know. He told me I did, and that's what it said in the police report. And then I went to fucking jail like 10 minutes after that.
They're like, book this lesbian.
Yeah. The start of the lesbian.
And that's bad, man. Look, I got short hair there, and I still look kind of feminine. I look like a Sharpie.
Well, wait, you got all your teeth?
Yeah, I got most of them.
Well, that's all that matters in Kentucky, then.
Yeah. That's actually how we greet each other over here. You ever see a Kentucky girl on Tinder and she's smiling real big? She just wants you to know she's not like the rest of them.
Well, all right, man. You take it easy. Have fun tonight, and I'll catch you later.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys having me, and I'd love to be on your show again, man. Next time I'll have a better battery life for y'all.
Oh, it's all good. Hey, maybe we can get together when you come down to Nashville.
I look forward to reading that book too, man.
I mean, I'll get those sent over to you before too long.
Absolutely. You guys have a great night.
All right,
Take
man.
care.
Take care.
Shoot, that's funny.
So, well, the book that he was referencing was actually what David had mentioned to start with, the Trailer Park series.
There we go.
I was going to kick a couple of these over to Billy and see about getting him to write an opening for us for one of the upcoming.
Oh, nice.
But this is one of those things that literally I was standing in the kitchen doing the dishes while my buddy Chris Woods was here. We're just sitting there shooting the shit, and it popped in my head. It came from the trailer park. I'm like, I don't care if we make money on it. It's just going to be fun because it's just stupid, fun humor.
Hell yeah.
And, sure enough, the thing hit it off and took off. It's like one of our best sellers. People like the stupid, fun stuff. But at the same time that we launched it, everything in the world went to hell in a handbasket. COVID happened.
That was COVID year. Yep.
And people just wanted something fun to turn to. So, it's proof that people want to laugh. They want to do something besides just mull over the dreary day to day.
Well, everything kind of sucks right now, just in terms of news and everything else. People want the escape. You know, it's nice to just pick something up and get, even if it's just a weekend read, it's not all that big, and you get some laughs out of it. You share it with a friend of yours. You get some inside jokes. Like, this is all good. If you turn on any kind of screen anywhere else, you're just bombarded with daily bullshit. It's like and especially during COVID, everybody's locked in their own house and bombarded with bullshit. Yeah. So, it's a good thing.
Well, even for me as a writer, being able to just dive into that and ignore everything else.
Hell yeah.
You're going on an adventure with your friends and having fun while you're doing it. Anybody that just pukes out prose and they don't enjoy what they're doing and it's just a job to them, I don't understand it. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Right. Well, and also a lot of I think, you could speak to it more than anybody else, but publishing industry in general right now, everything seems to have some kind of a message, some kind of a narrative. There has to be some thing about it that's basically trying to I don't know, teach isn't quite the right word, but there's a point of view that's being thrust upon everybody in terms of everything. And so just to be able to get the trailer park stuff where, man, I had such a blast writing my freaking story for that. And I'm sad that I packed it into 3 days. I wish it was longer, so I could have enjoyed it more, but just to be able to write something that's just dumb and funny and doesn't have to be any kind of a message behind anything.
Yeah.
That's worth everything as a creative.
For the industry, I honestly think it's sad that it's gone that direction to where there's a lot of the big publishers, they want to check off boxes. And I hate that. I despise that. And honestly, in our submission guidelines, I'm about ready to put in there, I don't care who you are, what your degrees are. If your job or whatever is pertinent to what you're writing, okay, you might want to include that. But otherwise, I don't care. I don't care how many publications you've got. Right. I don't care how many boxes you're trying to check. Because honestly, when I get those kind of submissions in the pitch, and it's like they're just trying to check every freaking box there is, I want to reject it right then and there. Because it's like they're hedging their bet on that instead of the work itself.
Right.
And I don't care about anything but the story.
Right.
It's like, for the Heathens and Heroes anthology we had 97 submissions for the Sword and Sorcery. Unfortunately, probably 75% of them did not understand what Sword and Sorcery really is. They submitted fantasy. And, it's a minute distinction. I mean, when you're writing something in the vein of Robert Howard or Michael Moorcock or Fritz Lieber versus standard fantasy type stuff. So, not doing your homework on what folks are wanting, with comedy, you really have to look at the market that people are, watching, listening to, whether it's podcasts or audiobooks, and try to play with that. I mean, predicting the market is a bitch.
Oh, sure.
But, if you put it out quick enough, you can possibly jump on a bandwagon and, get some of that residual. But so far with the stuff that we've been putting out, fun, shut up, Worf. One of my alarms. Fun just seems to be the thing that people go after.
Right.
It doesn't matter how, if there's any other kind of message or anything like that, it's fun. You don't have to think about it. You can completely disconnect from the world and just go for it.
I feel like some stories, there's a kind of message that's more authentic than something that's just like current and cultural, for instance. So when you look at things where characters are doing something that we can all kind of resonate with, everybody has been homesick at one point or another. So if you have characters that are homesick and you write some comedy around homesick, you automatically have something that can tune in to pretty much anybody reading it. Everybody has experienced love and loss. Like those are timeless. Those are those kinds of things. If you start writing comedy that's just whatever cultural thing is happening right now, then it's going the way of Tamagotchi and Pogs and everything else that has just come and gone.
You're dating yourself again.
And like, I know it's fine. And it's fine to like, and I do that. Like I love retro humor. Right. So I'll definitely throw in references to 80s songs and crap like that, because I'm speaking as a Gen X to other Gen Xers. It's just kind of the way it goes.
Have you seen Smuggler's Run?
No.
It's the novel that me and Chris Woods did together, and it is basically a running 80s.
There you go.
Homage. Oh dear God! I actually submitted it to Guinness Book of World Records for the most pop culture references in one science fiction novel.
That's excellent.
There's that many Easter eggs in there, man. It's so god awful horrible, but we laughed our way all the way through it. We wrote
for
that
sure
for a month.
Exactly, and I don't know exactly when it came out, but you remember Discworld novels.
Yes.
Right. And Discworld, there was one scene, I forget which book it was in, where they were in like the music store. And he said, if somebody walks in here and picks up an instrument and starts playing Pathway to Paradise, rip his arms off. And I'm like, that's hysterical, because that's exactly what happens. You go in a music store, at least in like the 90s, and inevitably somebody who was not born in the 70s would sit down and start playing Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is great. Like, I love references like that.
Oh God. Let's see. Do I still remember it?
Oh no! Quick, cover your ears! Run away!
There it is. Somebody tear his arms off.
Let the Wookiee win.
Right.
I remember a little bit of it.
That's fantastic, man. Oh, that's good.
Well, I had to. Ah, damn it. I can't remember.
Yeah, it'll take me a while. My guitar's sitting over there covered in cat hair and just looking at me all mad because I haven't picked it up in a couple months.
I try to pick them up and just to
I noodle around.
Work the hands a little bit, get
that's all it is.
Worked out of them.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you, Terry? I mean, when you're doing these voices and everything, how do you go about finding that proper punch for the characters? I mean, I'm sure you read through it and you get an idea and you start taking notes as you're prepping.
Oh yeah, you should see some of the things I write in my notes. It's hieroglyphics practically, but a lot of it is that. A lot of it is just reading through and understanding, or trying to, what the author is going for. Makel is a great example of that. He evolved over time. Like, I've gone back and listened to the first couple books I did. Nice. And I will admit, the voice of Makel changed from book 1 to book 3. So that evolved a little bit to what it is now, and hopefully it stays exactly where it is. But that character is sarcastic. He's snarky. He has a dark side that he can't express all the way, and so that comes out in that character. Other characters who are a little bit more down to earth, it's more about going back to that comedic timing from Monty Python, from Keeping Up Appearances, and just trying to find where those pauses need to go. Just long enough to get the audience to say, wait, what? That's the goal.
Okay. Brain work.
Yeah,
I picked up the guitar and I went brain dead for a second.
Yeah, speaking of music and rhythm, I danced for 14 years when I was a kid. And one thing a teacher told me when I went to a workshop one time in tap class is, yes, tap is about the sounds, but it's also about the silence. You can't have the rhythm without that silence. And so I think that rolls over perfectly into comedic delivery and timing.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Well, I mean, just like we're writing the prose, I mean, depending on how you're setting up a scene and doing a punchline, whether you're doing a punchline or just getting something that's prophetic or the bad guys putting the scenario down and boom, here you go, here's what's happening, and the reader and the good guys like, oh crap, getting that laid out and set up in the prose itself. I mean, it's no different than doing like the action scenes to where you're trying to keep it as fast paced as possible, so you're keeping it into smaller chunks. You got to build that tension and then do the delivery. I mean,
Yeah.
Because not just the words itself, but it's how we format it and put it onto the page.
Right. It's funny because I was pondering this as I was driving back. I've been on the road for like 8 hours today, and plenty of time to think. And as I'm driving down, I was trying to think because you're mentioning, okay, this has something to do with comedy and timing. I had nothing else about it, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like reviewing in my own head just some of the ways that I write and some of the ways I like to deliver gags, and there's 3 basic ways that I'll do it. First one is just, it's like the straight gag. It's like a one-liner or whatever. If it's a joke or it's something back and forth, there's nothing more to it. 2 peanuts were walking down the street and one was assaulted. It's all you need, right? To just like complete the joke. And then I'm like, there's another one where there has to be that beat between the punchline being delivered and the gag setup right beforehand. And as a writer, I can't just put them side by side because I can't force the reader to just slow down and wait for it and then read the next line. You're going to read the next line at whatever your pace is. So then it's up to me to color the scenario. I'll give you an example. I have in a different work, I have two guys and they're driving. One's driving, the other one's in the passenger seat, and they're getting to know each other. And the one in the passenger seat mentions that he's in a band. So the driver's like, well, okay, like, tell me about it. And he said, well, we had pink instruments and we had pink clothes and we only played 1 gig. And he's like, pink instruments and pink clothes. Like what kind of music did you play? And he's like, well, we played goth industrial. And he's like, you had pink instruments, pink clothes, and you played goth industrial. What the hell was the name of your band? And that's where I wanted the beat. So I had the passenger just kind of looked out the window, let out a big sigh, Pepto Dismal. And that was it. That's
horrible.
That's how I completed the joke. But I needed that beat in there.
Right.
And I didn't want it to just be one line after one line after one line because I feel like it wasn't as punchy if I did it that way.
But that's a good break. That's a good way to set the pacing for that.
Right. Just pull him back into the car. He looks out the window kind of like there's a sense of shame. Obviously, and then there's the gag. And then the other one, so I've got that little beat where you've got to kind of pause because I feel like the joke will hit better if there's just a little bit of a space in between. And then there's one where you just cut the joke off and I want the reader's head to complete it. And I've got something like that in Space Pew Pew where he's talking about this girl that's the object of his desire on the ship. And he's talking to his best buddy who's an android who just kind of doesn't get it. And he's like, what do I do? Do I go in there? Do I talk to her? Do I try and do I say something that's like kind of sexy or whatever? And the android says, well, you could go in and say, are you the vacuum of space? Because I lose my breath when I see you. And he's like, all right, that's not bad. And he's like, how about, are you a star? Because that's a stellar body. And he's like, that's not bad either. And then he goes, how about, are you the singularity? Because I find myself drawn into your black hole. And he covers his mouth. There you go. Right? I don't want to complete that joke. I'm not writing the last word. It's H dash.
Yeah.
Because in your head, you just finished it. And it's funnier that way. Mm-hmm. And so I'll mix any one of those 3, depending on the character, depending on the scene or whatever else, because that's what I'm looking to get. I'm looking to get okay, that's there it is.
And depending on the character too, that could be a telltale of that character. Like I've got one, Furgus in Flux Runners. He starts telling really bad jokes when he starts getting nervous.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
So that's just one of those character building bits that you slowly start to pick up on. I mean, he's all the time doing stupid things and pranks and stuff like that. But when the horribly bad jokes come out, it's usually because he's trying to distract himself because he's nervous. Right.
Yeah, as a character attribute. In this case, it's the android is saying it because like he doesn't understand. Like he doesn't understand he's pushing it too far. So then Alex covers his mouth and he's like, whoa, like that's too much right there. Like we're not going to go that far. And again, it kind of speaks to the character, but it also speaks to the timing of the gag. Whatever it is when you're writing the humor, whether it needs the beat or it doesn't, or it's just something that's like kind of like an over the head offhand remark and it's just never acknowledged, but it's funny, so there's so many different ways to approach it. It's one of the joys of writing anything that's humorous is just being able to play with it this way. So you're not telling you don't have the same pace to the joke over and over again, and you're still kind of honoring the characters.
Yeah.
And to bounce off of that, David, using your example of the two guys in the car talking about the name of the band, as I'm hearing that, I'm thinking, okay, so how do I deliver that last line? Because there's different ways you can do it. You can do it deadpan, right? And just like, well, this is a fact. Or you can play off that beat. It's like he's looking out the window, he's doing that. He's like, he doesn't want to say it.
No.
And so instead of just saying Pepto-Dismal, you could be like, Pepto-Dismal. And so using the voice and bringing out what the emotion is that
it can easily change the context depending on the inflection.
Right. And in that particular scene, I actually had the next line is the driver. He just kind of stares out the window like some mystery of the universe just unraveled. And he's just like, that actually makes sense. I'm like, that's it. And then gag's over and we move on to whatever's next and everything like that. But there's different ways it can be delivered. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because you deliver it different ways. It actually colors the character in the scene so differently. I'm not sure how you do that as somebody narrating somebody else's work. Because that seems really tricky to me.
It can be. And the thing that I do is I read the whole book prior to doing any recording at all. So gotcha. I know where it's going. I know where it ends up. And therefore I can try to build that up. Right. Like these two guys, all I know is this little bit in the car. That's all I know. So I don't know if the guy that was in the band is proud of that or if he
definitely not
want to say that. So by reading the whole thing ahead of time, I have that context. And so then I can bring it in.
Gotcha. Yep. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The days of his youth that he doesn't speak of anymore.
The thing that shall remain nameless.
That's right.
Down at the dark recesses of the brain.
Well, Terry, what has been your favorite comedic delivery so far? I mean, has it been the sarcastic, snarky, more of the just straight up comedy jokes and things like that? What do you like doing the most out of the narrations?
I like having a little bit of intellectual in there and poking fun at other characters a little bit. There was a scene in it was Posthumous's third book, Staff of Chaos, where they're talking about having a wedding for the main character, and her two friends are discussing that, and they're like, "Oh, you'd look great as a bridesmaid," talking about the kind of dress that she would have her bridesmaids. These are two dudes, by the way. And he'd be like, "I was thinking something lavender and floofy," making total fun of this one guy who's very butch and very manly. I do my best Samuel L. Jackson voice for him. And just the interactions that are happening between those two guys. What was I saying? What was that scene go? It's my favorite one I've ever done. Oh my God. And so the not so butch guy is like, "Oh, you'd look great in lavender." And the guy is just like, it insults douche nugget. And it's just that is a deadpan. It's like, I will end you if you continue this conversation.
Yeah.
And so that kind of thing that has a little bit of poking fun while not being necessarily slapstick.
Right.
And has that bit of, oh, there's teasing going on here. That's fun.
Yeah, it's right at the edge of being being in the same vein as slapstick for the feel of it.
Without the physicality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Stooges did a lot of that too. I mean, just with back and forth name calling and stuff. You know, they may not have been actually beating on each other at that time, but you know, that banner back and forth built that up.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't even find the Three Stooges anymore.
No, it's not around,
difficult,
right?
Yes.
Too violent.
I've got like 5 DVDs out in the shop that I talk to every now and then. And it's got some of the classics, you know?
That used to be a Sunday staple in my house. It was church and then come home and watch the Stooges. And like, like that was just how it went every Sunday.
What was it? You know, we had the standard ABC, NBC, CBS.
Yep.
And we had PBS, and then finally we got TBS back in the late 80s. Was it mid-late 80s is when TBS came in our area. So we had Tom and Jerry, Heckle and Jekyll, Three Stooges, Little Rascals. You know, we had all that stuff in the mornings before school.
Right.
So that's what we would watch in the mornings. And
you were one up on me. We never had CBS when I was a kid.
And I'd get home and watch Animaniacs.
Yeah.
That was another one.
There's so much adult humor in Animaniacs. It's not.
Oh my God. I watched it back and I'm like, oh my God, I was watching this as a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just all sex jokes. Honestly, my favorite though, like, you know, I'd say right around that time, maybe a little bit after, was Ren and Stimpy. I've got the full seasons and everything before they did some voice changes and I didn't like it anymore. But those original few seasons of it were so off the wall and bizarre, and I loved it. Like loved it. How weird it was and everything. Invader Zim kind of came in and sort of carried that torch for a while as well. But
Invader Zim is so much better.
It's so great. It's so great.
I mean, that first season of Ren and Stimpy, I mean, I watched it because it was like, what in the hell am I watching? Okay, cool. This is a train wreck.
What were they on when they wrote that show? Yeah.
And honestly, I watched most of it because the girl that I was dating at the time loved Ren and Stimpy.
Right.
Like, okay, cool. Yeah, we'll watch this. No.
That was a red flag.
Oh my God.
Warning.
She was the redhead preacher's daughter.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that one was.
Yeah. Your favorite episode's the one about the rubber nipple salesman.
Yeah.
It's good.
But you know, I like stupid humor to a point. I mean, I'll sit and watch Attack of the Killer Tomatoes or
oh my God, yeah.
You know that up to that level of stupid B-rate cheesy.
Killer Clowns, yeah.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space, yeah. But I cannot stand Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
I cannot stand that movie. Just something about it irks me. I want to strangle them both. It's like, are you this stupid? Did you not get dropped on your head hard enough to reset you?
It's too much. Well, what about Ace Ventura?
See, I like Ace Ventura, though.
Right.
It just Dumb and Dumber went to that next level that I couldn't stand. I mean, I like most Adam Sandler stuff.
Oh,
there's a few that's just like, yeah. But, you know, like Waterboy,
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, Happy Gilmore.
Yep.
You know, those were staples that I'd have playing in the background because, like, okay, cool, here's a VHS tape.
Right.
You know, and just when I was stationed over in Okinawa, we really didn't have cable or anything like that. So we lived on the VHS and, DVD eventually. And the ex ended up taking most of the movies. But, you know, it was things like Men in Black and all that we just have playing in the background over and over and over. So, you know, Happy Gilmore, Waterboy, you know, and again, you get into a lot of slapstick. You get into the tongue-in-cheek parodies. Pierce Anthony, that had a lot of influence on the way out I write with the Incarnations of Immortality series.
It's my absolute favorite. That's, to me, that's just like, it's chicken soup, home comfort. I love Piers Anthony. Everything, all of it. I haven't read it in a long time, but that's what got me started.
I need to read some Xanth. I have not read Xanth.
It's been a long time.
I don't know how many books we've got here. We actually gave away some of them for Christmas presents one year. But I went through all the Incarnations series and loved every little bit of it.
Right.
But it's not quite British humor, but it's not like dry Canadian humor either. I mean, it's a weird mix.
Yeah, it was just solid. It was solid for the story. I think.
Yeah, and I don't really know how to classify his comedy. I mean, it's its own thing.
Here's another one. He had his whole myth series, Sweet Mystery of Life, and all those. And there's one scene that sticks out. I don't remember the books very well, but I devoured them when I was a teenager. And there was one where he was the main character was hanging out with a vampire, and she wanted to take him out somewhere. So they went to this bar, and all the tables, it was like brightly, like spotlights on the ceiling, like lit up really bright. And every table had a little umbrella over it, and you would sit on the table with the umbrella to shield yourself from the light. She's a vampire. He's like this wizard or whatever. And he's like, it's really bright in here. And she goes, I know, spooky, isn't it? And I'm like, that's just great. Like, what a great line. What a great little twist on being a vampire and being afraid because it's like so light out. Like things like that always just those little quips and stuff within the stories. They're not like the main joke. It's not really even necessary, but it just adds such a neat little splash of color to everything. Yeah, it's fun. Like it's fun to find those stories or movies or whatever it is that throws these in. For instance, the other night I was sitting here with my boys, and they're like, we want to watch The Birdcage, and I'm like, hell yes, right? Talk about a movie that nails the beats, the comedy, just one after another. One of the most hysterical movies, and plus like the cast, like they just nailed everything in it all the way around. And I talked to them afterwards, and I'm like, there's not a bad, like there's so many different kinds of comedy in it. When he's sitting there and he's watching the senator, he's watching the show where they're all screaming at each other, and he's on their screen and you can't understand anything. He turns to his wife and he said, it's the most intelligent show on television. And I'm just like, this is fantastic. Right. Or the one where he walks like John Wayne. And then Robin Williams is just like, and he's like, is that no good? He's like, no, I just never realized John Wayne walked like that. These little gags that they had in there, there was slapstick. There was just really intelligent humor. There was just some of the goofy stuff in there. Like that's one movie I'd peg that really nailed it for sure.
There we go. What was it?
More than Dumb and Dumber.
No, well, I mean anything that Robin Williams did.
Yeah.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Toys was so beautiful. I mean, you had that childlike innocence almost with the character.
Mm-hmm.
He was so diverse in the way that he did his acting, and
we see he could be like a filthy guy though.
Oh yeah,
like Betty White, the grandma. She's one of the dirtiest comedians ever to get a foot on a stage. Yeah. And that just made it even better. Like how hilarious is that?
Oh crap, what's his name? Full House. Bob Saget. Oh, he was portrayed as being so wholesome and everything. He was anything but.
He was the dirtiest of all.
I mean, he was as bad as Carlin and
Kinnison.
And Richard Pryor. Oh my God.
Right. Right. As a matter of fact, that Rodney Dangerfield special, Bob Saget was on it. It was one of his first. They were just getting started, these guys.
Yeah.
And he had them on one after another. Bob Nelson was the name of the other guy who just kind of became on. He was in a couple of commercials and then he was just gone. But his bit out of that whole thing was one of the funniest ones. Rita Rudner was on it. There were a whole bunch of these guys, and Bob Saget's on there he was quick. He had a quick wit. Not exactly it reminded me a little bit of Norm Macdonald, but Norm Macdonald just had that delivery that you had no idea where the punchline was coming from, and then it would hit you, from somewhere else, and that's why I loved him so much. But yeah, Saget was brutal for sure.
Well, what was it? Whose Line?
Oh yeah,
if you've ever watched Whose Line Is It Anyway, the improv. Here's your topic. Now have fun.
Okay, off you go.
And, you know, Norm Macdonald and I cannot remember Colin.
Colin Mockery.
Colin Mockery. That's it.
I mean,
Speaking of Canada,
he's just like bam, 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 bam. There's no missing a beat. He's just on it constantly.
Right.
And it was beautiful deliveries off the cuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and the trick with writing it is trying to get that feeling like it's improvisational, like it's sudden, like it's just a natural conversation, without it just being like planned or whatever else. You know, I'm all for a good gag in the middle of a serious scene, just to like get you like laugh. All right, fine, okay, let's get back to it. You know, like just some little quip or thing, and obviously it's got to fit the character. But I find that those well placed moments within the writing helps it feel like that funny improv more than it does just like okay, there's a joke. It has it like I saw it coming a mile away. I knew the punchline or whatever. It's funnier when there's a little bit of a twist or a delay or that beat or anything that just kind of a little bit of subterfuge around the jokes, I think goes a really long way.
Yeah.
those ones where you have to, the reader actually has to stop, go back a second, like, wait.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like,
Shit.
You've been setting up that joke for a whole page and I had no idea. Like, that's the best part. Yep.
Those are great ones though. So we are coming up at the end of the hour. Let's go ahead and tell people where they can find you guys at. Go, David.
Here comes that comedic timing. Okay. DavidBatterina.com. That's just the easiest place. Go there. You can read about the Space Pew Pew universe. You can read about the Caretaker universe and all that kind of stuff. Sign up to my email list that I don't email, so you won't get any email or spam because I don't send anything. And otherwise I'm all over the place. Sometimes I'm posting stupid stuff on Twitter or whatever. I tend to ignore Facebook and Instagram because Mark Zuckerberg. So there's that. That's where you can find me.
All right, Terry.
Terry K. Job, most commonly found on the Book of Face, simply because it's easy and I can share memes very easily, or pictures of my cats, one of the two.
Oh, nice.
Possibly to be found in more places in the near future? Question mark?
Possibly. All right, where is
Possibly.
Terry? And just because he had his battery dying, so if you look up Hardship and Felonies or Billy Hubbard Official, you'll find him over on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all the fun places that he's got his stuff at. I could play one of his things maybe. Yeah, we'll play with that later. Yeah, well, we're almost out of
Funny
time.
guy. I hope to see him back. Yeah.
He's got a lot of funny skits. The ones that I really liked were the alien ones. Like alien come down and meet the redneck and they're trying to take off with you and all that kind of stuff. Good gut chuckle. And they're 15, 20-second clips, you know. But okay, so I am William Joseph Roberts. You can find my stuff at williamjosephroberts.com or over at 3ravenspublishing.com because that's where most of it is at this point. More stuff coming out this year and Trailer Park. So as we mentioned before, we got it came from the Trailer Park. Stupid, cheesy, B-rate comedy. Volume 3, I do not have a copy with me, but Volume 3 has David in it.
That's right.
And people love the stories. I mean, they're just fun stories. You don't have to think. You just enjoy the adventure and roll with it.
Absolutely.
And
what's the theme for 4?
Vacations.
Yes.
I've already got an idea.
Oh, hell yes.
I've already told the cover artist, like, I'm thinking, you know, like a zombie fat Elvis in the leotard, you know, the white jumpsuit on a ship or something doing a stage show.
Nice.
Oh my.
So we'll see what she can pull off. Actually, I got to get with her because she's owes me some cover art. Yeah, that is it, y'all. I appreciate y'all hanging out and talking with us. Hope everybody that was listening in and watching enjoyed themselves. And where's the freaking? I got to find my buttons. Oh, okay, I found them. All right, so y'all take it easy, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Take care, everybody. Yep.